Apple just made an affordable MacBook. And no, not affordable for Apple, actually affordable. But this raises the question, is this a MacBook everyone should buy? Or did Apple cut too many corners? Let's get into it. So the MacBook in question is called the MacBook Neo. Think of it as a MacBook Air, but slightly cheaper. Still uses an Apple Silicon chip, still has a premium build, Mac OS, good battery life, and everything you get on a normal MacBook Air. But instead of an M1 chip or M series chips, now you're going to get an A18 Pro chip, which is essentially chip in the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, because Apple mass produce their own chips, you're able to get an efficient Apple chip for still lower, which is why they can make a $600 laptop with an Apple chip, or even $500 with a selling discount for that price. But still, to keep it at a $600 or $500 price range, there have to be some sacrifices, right? Now, here's the first budget cut, the trackpad. Even though the size is still the same as a normal MacBook's trackpad, it's no longer force touch or haptic feedback as other people know it as. It's now a normal trackpad that you're actually clicking. It's unlike the other MacBooks that are force touch, it has a vibration mode too. So when you click it, it doesn't actually move, but you feel a vibration instead. So it feels premium. But this one uses a normal clicking mechanism like a normal laptop does. But it still feels premium compared to an equivalent Windows laptop. Now, another big area where cost was saved, the display. This is 60Hz LCD display. Unlike the MacBook Pro with maybe ProMotion display, which is a fancy way for saying 120Hz, and it's also a mini LED display. But this one, you're not going to get any of the OLED blacks. So the dimming zones are fewer and also 60Hz. So that's going to be quite annoying. For the price range, I would say it's quite fair. And that area where savings were made was the keyboard. Even though it is still Apple's Magic Keyboard, there's now no backlight, which can be quite annoying when you want to use it in the dark. Although the keyboard is white, it's still going to be quite difficult using in a very dark environment or at night. Now, performance is where it gets quite interesting. So upon launch, when Apple announced they were going to use an A18 Pro chip, which is a phone's chip, there were quite a lot of questions about how well it will perform. How do you put a phone's chip in a laptop? But I think we need to understand how good that phone's chip is. Apple A18 Pro chip is a very good chip. Even though it's not the M series or it's not a laptop chip, it performs way better than most laptops around that price range. And when I say most, I mean a lot. In fact, more than most. The phone chips have become so good that they don't even need to put an A19 Pro chip, which is from the iPhone 17 series, iPhone 17 Pro series. They can just put last year's own to sell, to also use the chips that were not used last year. Although they removed one GPU core, it still doesn't make that big a difference. The A18 Pro is a very powerful chip, even in today's world. Although it may not be the best for video editing or any high-end tasks, it can do your basic stacks and still light video editing. It can do everything you would do on a normal light Windows laptop, but better. For the $600 starting price of the laptop, it comes with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, which to me is quite small, both the RAM and the storage options. But if you want to pay an extra $100, you can get the 512GB and you get Touch ID with this option. You do not get to the base 256GB variant. The battery life is exactly what you expect from Apple. Almost same as the MacBook Air, just slightly worse. But for the price range, I would say it's very good, and it will destroy almost every laptop in this price range in terms of battery. And say expect to get a full day of use, whether watching movies, browsing the web, and maybe light gaming. So I'll say the battery is very, very good. 10 out of 10 for me. Now this part I really wanted to get to. For about $500, if you have a certain discount, you can get the MacBook Neo, or you can get my laptop, which is a Dell Inspiron 3525. Now this has a Ryzen 5 7530U. It has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. This costs around $500 with the 16 gig RAM variants. On paper, the Dell sounds better. Of course, more storage, more RAM, has a proper laptop CPU. But how does it actually compare against the MacBook Neo? Here are the benchmark specs of the Ryzen 5 7530U versus the Apple A18 Pro chip. And the Apple A18 Pro chip literally destroys the AMD Ryzen 5 7530U in every category. It is a way better chip, way more efficient, and you expect way better battery life. Even though my laptop has a bigger battery capacity, the Apple A18 Pro chip is just that efficient. And I'll say a lot of this is due to ARM-based chips, which for Windows laptops, you can't get at this price range. You'll see Snapdragon Elite laptops starting mostly at the $1,000 price range and above. which I would love for them to come down to this price range. Although not everything that glitters is gold. So for a while, I would still recommend most people stay away from ARM-based chips until they are fully functional with all applications on Windows. For reference, ARM-based chips are more like M1 chips and A18 Pro chips, mostly Apple chips and Snapdragon Elite. But x84 chips are more like the Intel, the AMD. Those are the chips we are more used to on the Windows laptops we use daily. But they are trying to introduce ARM-based chips to Windows laptops more now. So let's see in years to come, it's probably be a good thing. That's when you will now be able to properly compare Windows laptops and Apple laptops when we both have ARM-based chips. That would be a nice thing to see. But with all I know, will I swap my laptop for a MacBook Neo? Well, probably. I love most things that the MacBook Neo has to display. Even though display is not that good, it's almost same as my display. Although for my laptop, you can either get a touchscreen variant or a 120Hz variant, so slightly better, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. I chose the touchscreen variant here because I prefer having a touchscreen display instead of a 120Hz display. And now issue is storage. My laptop is 512 gig. Apple's MacBook Neo is 256 gig. I cannot use a 256 gig laptop, so I'll probably have to use an external storage device of about 2 terabytes just to keep most of my stuff there. So it's a sacrifice I would have to make if I want to make the switch. 8 gig RAM is also quite small, but when you're using an Apple device, it feels more like 16. At least that's what they said. Repairability. Apple laptops aren't that easy to repair and upgrade. The RAM is even sold out to the board, so once you buy the 8 gig RAM variant, you are stuck with the 8 gig RAM variant. Unlike the simple Windows laptops here, I can just open my laptop and increase my RAM, swap my SSD out to a different SSD. Although some people can swap your MacBook's SSD, but I would not recommend you do it. It's still a very niche repair job or niche upgrade that some people do, and I'm not sure about the risks associated. So I would advise you stay away from any SSD MacBook swap. Fine. So is the MacBook Neo actually worth it? Honestly, yes. If you're a student, you don't do a lot of gaming, maybe do light editing, productivity, notes, watching movies, this is the laptop for you. As long as you don't have any heavy tasks to run that you would complain that it's too slow, you don't need to go up to the MacBook Pro, you don't need to go up to the MacBook Air. The display may not be the best, but an average person can live with an LCD display even in 2026. So yes, I would say the MacBook Neo is very much worth it. Very good bang for the buck. In fact, in my opinion, the best laptop for its value. You're getting the most laptop for either $500 or $600. And I'll say, please, if you are thinking about it, make the move. It is a move you cannot regret. Thank you for watching. See you next video. Like, comment, and subscribe.